Welcome to Season 2 of the Just Us podcast. This is a conversation with Pastors Aaron and Diane about faith, family, freedom, and fun. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything we share. So let's start today's podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Just Us podcast, conversations with Pastors Aaron and Diane. I'm Pastor Diane, and as you can see, Pastor Aaron is not with me today, but someone really special is, and her name is Savanna, and she's our ministry assistant, and she's going to put me on the hot seat. And I feel like she's going to put me on the hot seat with some things that are going to be helpful to you, beneficial to you, and she's going to do an awesome job. So I want you to say hi, Savanna. Hi, Savanna.
Hello.
Also, make sure that as we go through and there's something with the content or something that has helped you, make sure you subscribe, comment, and share it with someone so that we can get more content out to be beneficial to you with the conversations that we have about faith, freedom, family, and fun. So we're going to get started today. Are you ready? I'm ready. So, okay, Savanna, you're going to put me on the hot seat about a few things. You have some questions. So shoot.
Yes, it's not every day that somebody gets to put you on the hot seat. So
It's true.
I'm going to try and represent everybody well today and what
sure
they
you'll
would
do a
want to
great
know.
job. Yes.
Okay, so we've got some questions about faith, family, freedom, and fun.
Yes.
So first question I want to ask you today is a faith question.
Okay.
And it's, when was a time in your life that your faith was most challenged, and what did that teach you about who God is?
That's a really good question. I mean, I feel like I've been challenged a lot in my life, but as far as like with my faith that really, I would say kind of teetered something, or because I felt like from the moment that I got saved, I really felt like there was a great transformation that really started me on the track of trusting God, believing in God, which wasn't things that I grew up really having the confidence in. Mm-hmm. But I'll say, as pinpointing maybe one particular part, it was approximately about 11 years ago. And it's not something that I like to always bring up because I know God's done an amazing work. But it dealt more in the ministry area than it did in the well, actually, it hit both areas. So it was personal and ministry. And it was when we went through the church situation. And some people know it, some people don't. But anybody can go through a church situation. So it's any type of church situation. But the one that we particularly went through really had me questioning a lot of things about just my faith in God and how things can be allowed to happen, and how things that when, doesn't matter if you try to do things right all the time, there's still an enemy. There's still things that can come against you. So I would say that would have been around the time when we had that situation. And I call it, the challenge for me, I called it my dark 24, because it was a time where I just really started to question things in my faith that I thought, wait a minute, God, you said you're my protector, my defender, you're my daddy, you're going to take care of things. And there were some things that I was challenged in, like, why did you let this happen? Why did you let these kind of things transpire when it was nothing that I necessarily did, but it was something through other people's choices, through man, through situations, circumstances. And so when I started to get that way, it really challenged my faith to, wait a minute, is my faith strong enough to make it through this? Because I really felt like it was based on a strong faith to begin with. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Like, so circumstances and situations can really make you question your faith, but it's not really about that. It's about, I really had to have a moment where I realized that God did allow certain things so that it would build greater endurance in me, greater trust in Him. And out of that, it was really dark for me, because I'm thinking, well, if you said you're going to do this and you allowed this to happen, because a lot of people will ask that question with God, well, if He's such a loving, good God, why did He allow bad things to happen? Well, we live in a fallen world, and we live in a time or a place where people can make choices because God loved us so much. He gave us that free will. Yeah. So some personal things happened that were imposed upon me and the church, Pastor Aaron and I. And it really took me down a road of just questioning God. But it also, when I came out, I realized who God really, really was, and how He really did protect me, take care of me, provide for me. Mm-hmm. So it was those moments where it really challenged my faith. And looking back now, I'm grateful because I know God is a loyal God. And loyal means He's committed to me. Mm-hmm. And He said that. And even when I questioned him, he had an answer for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's really something that'll help minister to somebody, but it was a dark 24 is what I called it. It was a 24 hours where I went through, I don't even know if I want to still serve God. I don't understand, like, if he's this and he's that and all these things that I've even professed and confessed out of my own mouth. Did I really truly believe that? I think this was the time or the proving point that I had to choose. Was I really going to believe it because of circumstances and situations and people? Or was I really going to trust what God really truly said in his word and endure something and believe that it needed to change inside of me, not him, because he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. But he was always there. He remained there. And it actually gives me the endurance when I go through other things to know he's never going to leave me and he's never going to forsake me.
Yeah.
So it really built my faith instead of actually tearing my faith down. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So
I think for most people, when you go through challenges, that's when you really do learn, like, this is what I actually believe about God.
Absolutely.
Whenever you go through something hard, because it's easy to trust God when you haven't actually faced a challenge.
Right.
And
when
so,
it's easy.
Yeah.
And you grow. You have a tendency to grow more. And I know we've talked a lot about this, is like when we're going through a circumstance or situation that might challenge our faith, the first thing now that we talk about is, okay, God, what are you wanting to teach me in this situation? Not like, what did you allow to happen? Or why are you doing this to me? Because it's not really him.
Yeah.
In most cases, it could be the enemy. It could be something he's trying to teach us. But it's usually something that's happened, circumstances or challenges, or just because we live in a fallen world. But it's the first thing that we do now is like, okay, Lord, what are you trying to teach me in this? Not like, oh my gosh, why are you doing this to me? It's, what are you trying to teach me in this?
Yeah. And I think those challenges, they make you know God in a different way, but it almost sets you up in a way to never question him like that again.
Absolutely, because you trust him.
Yeah.
It builds that trust. It actually builds what faith is, and that's a firm persuasion of what truth is, and that's who God is. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I've even heard you talk about that, before. And something that stands out to me from that is how you really learn to let God be like your defender when people are saying things about you that might not be true. Because I
Right.
think that's something for you, that you genuinely love people so much. And I know that situation was one that was so challenging because it involved people who were very close to you.
Absolutely.
And when you go through things where it's like, these people should know my character, they should know who I am, and you feel like you're faced with something where that's challenged, it makes you question a lot of things.
it does.
But you're able to just see, like, God was my protector and he was my defender in that. So with that being said,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you another question of, what is something that you wish people knew about you?
I don't know if I really want to answer this question. What do I wish that people just really knew about me? Okay. There's the Diane that was early on, and there's the Diane that's now. So it's like the evolving Diane. So the evolving Diane, the person that I was, I will say transformation. That's the best way I should say it, is transformation. Because I have changed. And I don't ever want it to be anything that someone mistakenly thinks about me, because I still I really do genuinely love people.
Yeah.
But I do really feel like I want people to understand more about me, is that I have less of a tolerance for people allowing things to get a hold of them and do things to them that I know if they stay strong in their faith and they believe and trust God, they can come up and out of any challenge and situation. And sometimes my approach in that is a lot different than it used to be. I think before it had a lot more to do with the fact that I felt like sorry, or maybe like I don't want to say that it's compassion, but I felt more like, oh man, I am so sorry. Now I'm like, I feel like I'm more like, you know what? We're not going to stay like this. There's something that, like, more of a strength.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way of putting it. I feel like, and it might come across differently to different people because of people that maybe have known me before, and there's something that's happened in me now, even with season of life. I'm not blaming anything and everything on season of life because of where I'm at, because we've talked about this. But I also think it's a less of a tolerance of what the enemy is trying to do to people. And I think I want people to get it so deeply that their life changes. And the way I approach it, I know sometimes now, because of the lack of tolerance of the enemy and what maybe circumstances and situations tries to get me, that it might come across a little differently. So I think what I would narrow that down to after saying all that I said is that I don't ever want people to see me as hard or harsh. I want people to see me as confident and desiring to really help and love people in a way that sometimes, I've heard Lisa Bevere say this, that, you got to speak truth in love. And sometimes love is hard. And it's like being a parent. You can sometimes have to do things because you love your kids, be truthful with them so that they come up and out of a situation instead of allowing them to be enabled to stay. And the Lord said this several years ago to me, and I think I've told you this and I've shared this with you, is that I have to stop enabling because of the position that I hold ministry-wise and what God has called me to, that I have to stop enabling people to continue in destructive behavior if I have the opportunity to help them come up and out of it, and because then I'm going to be accountable for it. And that's heavy duty. I mean, I know you understand this. Yeah. It's weighty because I genuinely love somebody. I genuinely want them to get it. So it would be almost like parenting them, and I would never be like, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. But it would be more like, listen, I've been there. I know. Let me help you and say it in a way that's convincing and I don't want to say firm, but I think that's the differentiation for me. I feel like I've got the Godfidence to say it now more so than letting it be something that is just like pity. I don't want to pity anybody. Nobody desires to be pitied.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might, but most people don't. They want to be helped. And through the help, they want to be loved. And love means you speak things truthfully. And you do it in a way where it doesn't destroy them, but it helps them come up and out. So does that...
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's part of spiritual maturity as you
that's a great way
grow,
of putting it. Yes.
and you do change, and it does look different. And I think you become more confident and more bold in how you deliver things. And I think that's all that's happened for you, is that you have learned that the truth really does set people free.
Free, yeah.
And speaking the truth in love, that is actually loving somebody well. And I think that's
awesome.
something that you do a great job of.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You've done that for me several times. It does hurt a little bit sometimes, but
I've had it happen to me too.
But we've also talked about that. I genuinely want people in my life that are going to be honest with me. Because when people are honest about the hard things, that means you can trust them when they say the good things too.
Absolutely.
You're not just trying to flatter me when you say something good. It means so much more because I know you also are willing to say the hard things too.
I appreciate that. And I hope that's the case because I want people to be the same way. And I feel like that's the same way with you. I just feel like, the Bible talks about flattery. It's not good. It's not flattery. Is you're trying to manipulate.
Yeah.
Right? Because you see something where you can try to manipulate it. Being genuine and honest, I think people respect that.
They do.
Even if it hurts, I can respect somebody that tells me the truth. And it is delivery. There's a lot of times how you deliver something.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we all have moments where we might deliver it. But if you realized it being something, they're like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant to say it this way because I really want people to get a hold of it. I think that makes a whole difference too. But I can respect somebody who tells me the truth because like what you said, even if it hurts, than somebody who's going to try to flatter me and lie to me or manipulate me because then I can't trust that. Do you know what I mean?
As you grow in spiritual maturity, you can really differentiate between the two.
You can, you can feel that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You can discern that for sure.
Absolutely.
So that was a great question.
Thank you. So what is something that you wish people knew about you, not just as, Diane as a person, but as Pastor Diane, being a lead pastor, because that involves so much more than what so many people know. So what's something that you wish you could tell people?
Okay, probably one of the first things I think of when I think of that, there's one of me and several of you.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's good.
And I feel like you always want people to honor and respect the position. But I also think it takes character integrity to fill that position so that people have the ability to honor and respect you. And even in the hard situations or the decisions. I don't think people understand the decisions that Pastor Aaron and I have that we have to make day in and day out, from the smallest of things to the largest of things that are really weighty, and that we really take them seriously. And sometimes people will say to us or to me, like, I just don't understand, like, why you do this and why you done that. You know, I looked back when the Lord brought us back here and actually allowed us to become, because it's an honor, He allowed us and called us to be the senior pastors here at Lifepointe, that I realized how well that I was impacted. We lived in Canton, Ohio for almost 8.5 years, 9 years, and we sat under the ministry of Pastor Barb and Pastor Mike Caminetti.
I know you guys often refer to that as like going to Bible school. Like
that was a time frame that changed my life and taught me so much. But under their leadership, we honored them and understood that there were decisions that they had to make. We may not have always felt like, we might not have understood a whole lot. Of course, we were in the youth pastor position, so some of that was just because that didn't involve us. But watching them, watching their character, watching their integrity, gleaning from them things, how they, first of all, they honored and loved God and sought God and heard God and made the decisions out of what God said, not what they said. And their relationship with Jesus was just, I get emotional thinking about it, because I remember just watching both of them and how they handle a situation. And I can recall a situation sitting in with Pastor Mike, with Pastor Barb, that really taught me so much about handling people with integrity and honesty, but also addressing issues so that nothing can be hidden, that the enemy had no opportunity to come in.
That's good.
But gleaning those things from them, so that once we were in this position, it was like you understood, I could see why they did this. I can see why they did that. Not that we ever really came against their decisions or anything, but anybody's going to question, when
you don't have all of the information.
When you don't have all the information,
you have an
opinion. Absolutely. Yes, and we kept our opinion.
Yeah,
to
everybody
ourselves,
has opinions, yeah.
But we got a true understanding of what being a leader was. And I would just like to ask, even out of our church family and those that know us, even through all situations and circumstances, is that, we desire to give grace to people. And again, there's one of us, one of me, and multitudes of you. So, I think wanting to know that is one of the things there, and that, we don't just flippantly make decisions. We seek the Lord. We inquire with our team, our staff, our pastors, of some things that, that we don't know everything and see everything like we all do together. And I think it really helps, when we're in meetings, you obviously are in all of our team meetings, our staff meetings, and different things. And it just helps, it helps to have those opportunities for people to understand that and realize that I would like them just to know that I'm only one human, and I love them, and I'll do it to the best of my ability and capability and capacity. But I have days and moments just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And grace goes a long way. That's probably, and I hope that was said in the right way. If everybody understands me, and if they don't, hopefully they understand as a human, because we all can be pulled from so many different sides.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that really answered the question.
No, I think it absolutely does. Something that you and Pastor Aaron have talked about that I think is very helpful to have an understanding of within the church is that your all's job as pastors is to actually equip the saints to do the ministry.
Yes.
It's not just to do for you to be the ones that do all of the ministry. That is absolutely impossible. You are teaching all of us how to step up and be the church. But with that, you guys also love and care about people deeply, and you try to make as many one-on-one connections as you possibly can. But nobody has the capacity. So it takes all of us stepping up to do that, with one another.
Yeah.
So, okay, with that being said, because I think that can be something where when you're in a role like you are, it can be very easy to want to please people because you love people and you care about people. So for somebody who might be struggling with people pleasing or fear of man, how would you encourage them to overcome that and not be a victim to other people's expectations of you?
Yes, that is a great great
Because
question.
I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
I think most people struggle with that.
Yeah.
They may not show that, but I think most people, especially in ministry, care about that. So as a person, what I learned early on, and this actually was something I learned while I was in Ohio also, Proverbs 29:25 says, the opinion of man is as a snare.
I've heard you say that one several times.
That one is one I meditated on and realized what it does is it snares you or it traps you and it keeps you in a place where there's no opportunity for what God has put in you to come out because you're afraid that someone's going to say something. And I used to be really bad about this, negative. You became fearful, and it actually puts you in a place where, and this is really good because hopefully this will help somebody. I listened to a message about being a peacekeeper as opposed to being a peacemaker.
The opposite, being a peacemaker.
I'm sorry, being a peacemaker as
it's
opposed
easy
to
to get
being
them confused, but
be peacekeeper.
Yes.
And I used to be a peacekeeper because I wanted everybody okay. Because if everybody was okay, then everybody liked me. If I did everything that everybody wanted, they're going to like me. They're going to say nice things about me.
Yeah.
They're going to have a high opinion of me. And until I realized who I was in Christ, in Him, and I realized it doesn't matter what people's opinion are about you if you know who you are in Him. It's the opinion of what He says about you.
Yeah, that's
and not
good.
in an arrogant way.
No.
But in a way you realize my confidence comes from Him and only from Him. And I only have the ability because outside of Him, we're nothing. And inside of Him, we are everything. We have everything we need pertaining to life and godliness, is what the Scripture says.
that's real humility, just believing what the Word says about you.
That's exactly right. It's that. And knowing also that there was a message by John Bevere, and I think it's out of his book, Breaking Intimidation. So if you're interested, if you're somebody who has the fear of rejection or the fear of man, that was an excellent teaching. And we did, I think this as a staff, that we watched segments of that as teachings. And it was talking about being a peacekeeper versus being a peacemaker. But I mean, the two.
Yes.
And so how, like, I was actually realizing from what he shared and taught through the Word is that I was a peacekeeper, not a peacemaker. And a peacekeeper, you think, oh, well, keeping the peace is good. No, you'll compromise what the Word of God says being a peacekeeper because you're more worried about what people are thinking and saying. Being a peacemaker is you'll stand strong on the Word, knowing the opinion of God is the most important thing, and you'll walk that out and not compromise what the Word of God says.
That's so good.
Because you're accountable for that, not accountable for what people are going to think and say, because we're only responsible for ourselves.
Yeah, that's so good.
So hopefully that would help somebody understand that in some capacity.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. That's such a revelation to get because being a peacemaker, it's not always the easier route. So that's something else that I really appreciate about you is that you have always put a high value on communication and like conflict resolution.
Thank you.
You don't want to leave any room in your relationships for the enemy to, get in there and speak lies. And so you're very big on just like talking through things.
Absolutely.
That's something that doesn't necessarily come easy to everybody. Confrontation can be a scary thing for people. How is that something that you learned to grow in your life? Because that's not necessarily how you were conditioned in like the home that you were raised in. Did you learn how to do that?
First of all, it goes back to the being in Christ, learning who you are, your identity in Christ. That builds up the Godfidence is what we call around here. And so that really helps you to get a better understanding. So then it gave me I understand who I was and now who I am. And out of that, I realized, as you can tell, and those of you who know me, know I'm a talker. But I don't want to just talk. I want to be able to communicate. And when I communicate, I want to listen and I want to hear what people are saying. Even if they're saying things out of hurt, out of love, out of good, whatever, right? Because I'm an in-the-moment kind of person, so I'm going to respond in the moment. But the way that I felt like what I didn't get when I was younger was there wasn't communication. There was no understanding. There was misunderstanding, or there was offense. The generation that I grew up in, man, the offense was so prevalent and nobody talked about it.
Yeah, a lot of things were taboo to talk about.
Taboo.
Yeah.
They let it stay inside, and that's really what happens. Is we deal with it within our own strength. It becomes anger, denial, bitterness, and eventually hatred. And hatred leads you to so many things. Takes you down the wrong road, and gets you over to so many spiritual things. What I realized, why don't we talk about this? if we talk about it and we talk about it in the right way, creating communication, creating understanding, even if it's a difficult situation, let's talk about it. We can even come to a place, and a lot of people don't believe this, but we can come to a place we're going to have to agree to disagree, because you may not think the way that I do. You may not believe the way that I do. But truly loving people is, let's talk about it. Even if you're like, well, this, that, or the other, there may be times you have to come back to it, right? And I believe as a parent especially, and this might help some parents out there, I don't know why I feel led to do that, but as a parent, I think it's always your responsibility to take the first step, because you're the role model, you're the adult. I don't care if they're 60 and you're 90, you're still the parent.
That's good.
And so I think that's really important that we, as a generation above, take the responsibility to deal with the things, maybe with the ones below. And even that, like having a conversation, you can actually face-to-face, not this, face-to-face can understand the heart and the demeanor and the meaning truly behind it. So I think dealing with that deals a lot more to me with, is it hard? You better believe it's hard. But is it worth it? That could actually bring reconciliation in a relationship, whether it's family, friends, workplace. Let's deal with the issues, because otherwise, especially in ministry, and obviously because that's who we are and what we do, is that why are you giving the doorway to the enemy? Why are we opening that doorway to the enemy when we know full well, hey, let's find out. And I do also believe there's timing. I do believe sometimes you don't just, I've done that before.
Good.
I've word vomited before with people just because it builds up so much, because I used to be a suppressor. And when I would suppress, and then one small little word that somebody says that had nothing to do with it could make me go, boom. And you may relate to that, you may not relate to that. But I realized you can't suppress. You have to express. And when you express, it gets things out. Wouldn't be any different if you had a cold. Never take something that's going to suppress your cold. You got to clear your lungs. You got to express those things. And I think that's the same thing. And that's really along what God says. If you truly love people, you'll deal with that. Look, Jesus dealt. He confronted with so many things. Mm-hmm. He could thin a room in a matter of minutes, right?
Yeah.
But he dealt with the situation? Absolutely he did. He dealt with it with love, compassion, and he even got angry. But he didn't sin. And I think we could take that as one of the major things, is that we can get angry, we can have hurt, just don't sin in the midst of it. And I think sinning is by not confronting it, talking about it, it continues. And then it builds into something totally different. So that would be my answer to that. Hopefully that was a good explanation.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think when you're willing to confront, it actually does breed trust.
Yeah, trust. And I think it breeds freedom, which is one of the things that we want people to have around here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you did a great job. Thank you.
This was pretty fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Hopefully the on-the-spot moments helped somebody. Thank you for shooting some questions my way and helping today. We really appreciate you being here. I love it. We'll have to do this again.
It was fun.
We love you guys too. And make sure if there's any of the information that helped you today, make sure you comment, subscribe, and share this video. And we're just looking forward to seeing you again on the Just Us podcast. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening today. You can find out more information at justuswv.com. Don't forget to share this week's podcast so more people can hear the conversation. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time on Just Us.